Good evening, everyone. We will call our September 3rd meeting to order. While you are here, please silence your devices and make sure they are quiet for us. We are going to have a moment of silence, and tonight we are going to do our moment of silence in remembrance of the 9/11 attacks that killed 2,977 U.S. citizens. And so please, if you will join me in a moment of silence. Thank you so much. And now, if you are able, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Smith, announcements.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. We have just a few announcements for you this evening. First up, we have a few updates from the Police Department. We wanted to remind everybody that our Citizens Police Academy begins on September 17th and will end on November 12th. Classes will be held on Tuesdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and residents can apply on our website. National Night Out will be held October 1st at Huntersville Athletic Park from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we wanted to extend congratulations to Jonathan Tolley for his promotion to sergeant, and congratulations to our newest officers, Dylan Hartness and Chandler Cochran. We also wanted to bring everybody up to speed on a current tree survey going on at Holbrook Park. So as part of a proposed Holbrook Park parking lot expansion, the town's conducting a tree survey of the site, which is required by our zoning ordinance. Any proposed parking lot expansion will not impact the playground, and no trees will be removed near the playground. Park patrons will see a lot of trees in the park with pink ribbons around them, but these ribbons are just to identify certain size trees and do not mean that those trees are going to be removed. Since we're in the early stages of this project, conducting a tree survey and creating a design for the project, there's not yet a firm number for how many trees may be removed, and the town will continue to plant trees each fall in park areas where many large trees are coming to the end of their life cycle, including in Holbrook Park. This is a survey map of the proposed parking lot expansion site. So that will take place between existing parking lot and the shelter, and the red shaded area on this map shows where that is. And at this point, I'll pause really quick and ask if you guys have any questions, because we have our Planning Director, Brian Richards, and Parks and Rec Director, Michael J. Cox, in the room to answer any further questions.
Board, any questions? Commissioner Hunt?
So for people who are following along, what can they expect as the next step?
I'm going to turn that over to these guys.
So we're in the beginning stages. So we're locating underground utilities, surveying trees and so forth. So the next step was, once we start gathering information, we'll start pulling together some concepts of what the parking lot would look like, what requirements the planning department has, to figure out how many spaces we can get and stuff like that. So it's just the beginning stages of that process.
Any other questions? Oh, Commissioner Dumas.
Thank you. I know I received a lot of emails and questions about this and concerns about this, and I'm sure the rest of the board did too. I just wanted to say in advance my apologies for not responding to every one of them. There's a lot. And I love that our town is so invested and excited and concerned about tree save. We all are as well. So we're really happy to see that people are in agreement on this, and we will do everything we can to maintain that tree canopy. And I wanted to use it as an opportunity because it seems like there may have been some social network posts out there that had some incorrect information, or at least some assumptions. And I think it's great when people text me or call me or send me an email on my town email to ask and find out what's going on with that. And I'm more than happy to, I had texts last night from people, more than happy to give my perspective on that. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of explain the last 24 hours with some emails. It's been a lot, and so you probably won't get a response on all of those from me, and I apologize in advance.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anything else? And I just want to reiterate, we have an open door policy here, all of the commissioners do, so feel free to email or call us if you have any questions. Both of those contact things are on the website, so I think that's it.
And just the last thing, just a reminder of all the ways you can connect with us. You can visit our website, sign up for our newsletter, visit us on social, or download our app. We are maintaining a really good open rate on our newsletter, so people who are actually receiving it, reading what's in it, clicking through. Industry standard for that is about 26 to 30% open rate. We are maintaining about an 80 to 85% open rate, so we're well above standard. People seem to be very interested. If you'd like to sign up, please visit our website and click that link to sign up. But that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, we are on to item 6A, which is a presentation by Carolina Raptor Center. Ms. Katzner.
All right, well, thank you. I have some slides that I prepared. Hopefully we'll be able to see those because there's lots of really pretty pictures of birds in them. Well, first of all, I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Erin Katzner. I'm the president and CEO at the Carolina Raptor Center. I'm fairly new to the position, relatively. I moved here 2 years ago next week from Boise, Idaho, where I was working for another raptor conservation organization that does conservation work around the world. And I've been working with raptors for the last 30 years, believe it or not. I started out as a teenage volunteer at the Columbus Zoo and was fortunate enough to be mentored by Jack Hanna and just fell in love with these birds. And so I'm very excited to have the opportunity to speak to all of you. I know that, oh, do I need to do something up here? Sure. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Oh, no worries. So if you want, I can click it. Would that be easier for you maybe? Yeah, okay, let me go back. Okay, so I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and I know that the funding opportunities for this year have passed already, but we're just grateful to have the chance to update you on what we've done in hopes that maybe next year we can seek some funding opportunities from the town of Huntersville. So first of all, how many of you have been to the Carolina Raptor Center before? Everybody, oh good, excellent, wonderful. And if you haven't been, how many of you have had kids that have been to the Raptor Center on field trips? Yeah, so maybe even some of you have been to the Raptor Center on a field trip yourself. We get that from time to time too. It's kind of a rite of passage in this area, and we're very proud of that. Our mission is to ignite a passion for raptors and a responsibility for our shared natural world. We know for a fact that raptors are inspiring, and we know that getting people close to them gives us the opportunity to get them excited about birds of prey. We have an inspiring vision where we're working to create communities in which raptors and humans thrive. We do that through innovation, research, and education, and we're working towards becoming a truly world-class destination. Having come from the outside, I can tell you that the Carolina Raptor Center is revered around the world by organizations that work with raptors. That's something that I don't think a lot of people in our area know, but we are one of the top raptor centers on the planet. When I was offered the opportunity to come lead the Raptor Center, a lot of my colleagues at the Peregrine Fund, where I came from, said to me, oh, someday I want to come there and learn from your team how to do rehabilitation in the field. So we have a great team of experts. And we know that raptors serve as indicators for the health of the environment. And when something is negatively impacting raptors, it's also often negatively impacting humans. When raptors thrive, we thrive. We know that education is critical to conservation of wildlife, and the Carolina Raptor Center allows us to provide education. And we're poised to become a world-class destination and are unique in the experiences that we provide and in our expertise. We're already drawing in visitors from around the region, but we're also drawing in visitors from around the world. We have a number of visitors that come from far beyond. And we achieve our mission through our Raptor Rehabilitation Hospital, through education that happens on the Raptor Trail and in the classroom, and conservation research that's done on and off site. So our Raptor Hospital is one of the things that we're best known for. We see between 800 to 1,000 injured raptors annually, And just since July 1st, which is when we start tracking things as the beginning of our fiscal year, we've seen 10 birds that came in from Huntersville. So 10 birds that we're working to help get back out into the wild where they're controlling rodent populations, something we can all get behind. We serve our local community, but also the entire multi-state region. We get raptors in from Virginia, from down in South Carolina, Georgia, and over in Tennessee. And that's in large part because we are one of the biggest facilities. We have staff with the most expertise. We have state-of-the-art equipment, and we have space where we can house lots of raptors. And just recently, we rehabilitated our 10,000th raptor and released it back to the wild in a big celebration, which was very exciting. It was a red-tailed hawk, and it flew strong, which was really exciting. And so when we're putting these birds back out into the wild, that's 10,000 birds that are helping to control rats and mice, squirrels, chipmunks, and rabbits, all overpopulated, as well as getting carrion dead animals off the side of the road and helping to control disease. And our team is built with experts. We have a lot of experts that work in the Raptor Hospital. In fact, they provide professional development training for people around the world who want to learn from our team for how to care for the raptors. And then we also do training for teams here locally. Just recently, we hosted the animal control team from Charlotte, where we trained them how to trap and move raptors so that they could get them to us safely whenever a citizen calls them. And the Huntersville animal control team found out about it and asked if they could come. So we're working on getting them scheduled to do a training with them as well, which is pretty exciting. We also do education. We have more than 45,000 visitors that come to the Raptor Trail every year and are inspired by what we like to call nose-to-beak experiences. And about 10% of those visitors come from the town of Huntersville, which means that we're bringing around 40,000 people to the Huntersville area every year. We also see about 15,000 school children that we engage in STEAM-based learning annually, and 1,331 of those kiddos come from Huntersville schools, or we go to their schools. So we're proud of the work that we get to do with the community that way. And we see we have a huge team of volunteers that we do about 16,000 volunteer hours with every year. Those folks are coming also often from Huntersville. We even have board members that live here in Huntersville. So we have a tight connection to our community. And we do conservation research. Just this last year, when California condors out in Arizona started dying of avian influenza, the U.S. Geologic Survey, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture selected the Carolina Raptor Center to be the site of a vaccine trial where we tested a poultry-based avian influenza vaccine on 28 black vultures to ensure the safety and efficacy of that vaccine. Because of our efforts today, there are over 160 California condors that have been vaccinated. That's a critically endangered species. There's only 500 of them in the world. And right here in Huntersville, we're helping to save them, which is kind of exciting. We also see hundreds of college students that we engage either in programming that we do at their universities, or they come on site to participate in hands-on internships. We provide a lot of data to the colleges and universities in our area so that those students can learn how to analyze data and ask questions that they can answer using data that come from our Raptor Hospital. We are also getting ready to embark on an On the Wing campaign. We're in the silent phase of this campaign, but many of you have probably heard of it. We're getting ready to move our facilities just down the road, still within Lotta Nature Preserve, but a mile closer to Beatty's Ford Road, where we will be co-located with Quest, which was a project that was done between the Carolina Raptor Center and Mecklenburg County Parks as a partnership. We're going to be co-locating with the parks so that we can provide more education programming in partnership with them. And we're going to be expanding our facilities and our educational impact by building 31 brand new raptor exhibits. We're going to sort of set the bar on how raptors are exhibited, and those will be place-based so that anybody who comes to see them is learning about those birds and where they live. We're also going to be building a 500-seat amphitheater that can host community events and art performances, and a 200-seat multi-purpose space for hosting weddings and other special events that we can have right here in the area. We are also planning on seeking AZA accreditation. That's the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and it is a standard that would set us apart as the only raptor zoo in the world. And we know that AZA facilities produce annually about $22.5 billion, with approximately $2.4 billion in before and after visit spending. So we're excited about the future of CRC and bringing that sort of feather in our cap to the Huntersville community and the positive impact that that's going to have. So long story short, we have a lot of great things going on. We have a lot of opportunities for you to come and learn and get excited about raptors at the Raptor Center, and we would love to host any one of you who would like to come out for a tour. We'll give you behind-the-scenes tour to see the Raptor Hospital and learn about what it is that we have in plan, in store for us. Any questions?
Just a quick one. You mentioned when you release the birds, where do you release them?
Yeah, so we release them all over the place, and it really depends. So if a bird comes in and whoever found that bird has an interest in releasing it, then we will work with them to release it back at the location where we found the bird. But if there's somebody who wants to do a special event or wants to do a special release, then we will work with you to do that too. So if there's ever an opportunity that Huntersville wants to do a bird release as part of an event that you guys are doing, we would be happy to bring a bird for that. It's a great celebration. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Dr. Hunt?
What if someone finds an injured raptor? What can they do?
Yeah, great question. So if you find an injured raptor, you can call us. Our number's on our website on the front page, and we can either walk you through how to capture it and put it in a box and bring it to us, or we also have a team of volunteers who we call our transport volunteers, and they go out all over the region and will scoop up the bird, put it in a box, and bring it to us so that you don't have to, worry about the talons and the beaks. Yeah.
You have like a digital way to keep track of the bird too, right?
We do, yeah. We have a program that was founded at the Raptor Hospital by our former veterinarian, Dr. David Scott, called Raptor Med. And he founded this program so that we could track all the health and care that all of our birds provide. So when you find a raptor in the wild, we give you a number. That number you can go in and enter into our website, and you can see all the care that your bird has been provided throughout the time that it's with us at the Raptor Hospital, which is great because you can see, what it gets fed every day. You can see the x-rays. You can see literally everything about that bird, and kind of track its prognosis over time. And my favorite part of it is there's a donate button, so that tells you how much the bird's care has cost us. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, which is, you mentioned that now. So the only time in my life I've ever dealt with an injured raptor, I was luckily living here in Huntersville when one came to our backyard. So we've been through that experience in the past of, catching it and being able to see on the website, you could see like the x-rays and all of the information and to be able to release it back where it was found. So I love all the work that you do.
Oh, thank you. You're a raptor hero.
You mentioned you have 16,000 volunteers.
16,000 hours volunteered. Yes.
Hours. Okay, I thought that sounded like a high number, but still, that's amazing. With it being the start of the school year and a lot of students needing community service hours, can you just talk really briefly about if anyone's listening and wants to volunteer and they're a minor, kind of what opportunities there are?
Yeah, that's a great question. Since we do work with talons and beaks, we do require that minors have an adult partner that they volunteer with, just so that we can make sure that everybody is staying nice and safe. But we do accept volunteers that are under 18 if they're paired up with a parent or a grandparent or somebody else who's an adult that has approval to work with them. Yeah.
Commissioner Hunt asked about if you find a raptor and what the process for that is. But how do I know if it's a raptor?
That's a great question. What makes a raptor a raptor? So there's in general, the raptors that we have in this area are hawks, eagles, owls, falcons, and vultures, and osprey. Ospreys are kind of oddballs that are like in their own little thing, but we love them. And we have tons of them around here, and thanks in large part to the conservation organizations that have worked so hard to clean up the lakes and rivers in our area. So those are the raptors that you're gonna find in this area. But if you find any injured wildlife at all, you can always call us and we will point you in the right direction. If it's not a raptor, we'll help you figure out what it is and get it to the right type of rehab center. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, well, I hope you all come out and visit, so thank you.
We are the Patriot Day proclamation for the remembrance of 9/11. Whereas this 11th of September marks 23 years since the unconscionable attacks of September 11th, 2001 claimed nearly 3,000 lives and irrevocably changed our world. And whereas every year since, we have observed this somber anniversary as Patriot Day to remember those we lost and honor the courageous first responders and men and women from all walks of life who took action to protect their fellow Americans. And whereas we reflect on the past 23 years, we also commemorate the service members who answered our nation's call in the aftermath of the attacks. We'll never forget their sacrifices to protect our cherished freedoms and way of life. And whereas on this day of remembrance, let us pay tribute to the American heroes we've lost and recommit to the values of equality, opportunity, and freedom our nation stands for. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim September 11th as Patriot Day in the town of Huntersville. And then, it is also Suicide Awareness Month. Whereas with September being recognized as Suicide Awareness Month, the National Suicide Prevention and Action Month proclamation was created to raise the visibility of mental health and proactive suicide prevention resources in our community. And whereas, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, more than 49,000 people die by suicide annually in the United States. And whereas, according to Hope for the Day, with an average of 132 suicides completed daily, and each one directly impacting 100 additional people, including friends, service members, family, social media connections, and neighbors, we can safely assume everyone has been impacted by suicide. And whereas the town of Huntersville publicly places its full support behind those who work in the field of mental health, education, and law enforcement. And whereas we encourage all residents to take time to understand mental health through education and recognize that we take care of our mental health while we take care of each other. Now, therefore, I, Christy Clark, Mayor of Huntersville, do hereby proclaim September 8th through 14th as Suicide Prevention Week in Huntersville, North Carolina. And now, Miss Daphne, would you like to come up here and speak? Commissioner Rivers is going to set a timer, and you have 3 minutes to talk. Just tell us your name, okay? Okay. Talk real loud into that, real loud and proud, okay?
My name is Daphne, and I'm going to be talking about deforestation. It really bothers me because whenever they cut down trees, they give us less oxygen to breathe. And one day there's going to be no trees, which means no oxygen, just because of people who wanted to expand parking lots, build more churches and more banks, and plus the animals won't have anywhere to live or hide from animals, like predators, and predators won't be able to hide from their own predators in life, and we also won't be able to have any food, such as fruit, vegetables, and other plants that we can eat. And it just really bothers me that they cut down trees. And I also like the smell of some trees, like pine trees And I also like blossom trees. And sometimes, even if they deserve to be cut down, like if they're in the way of something, don't cut them down, because what if a beehive was living there and you just cut down a bee's home? Now they need to find somewhere else to rebuild all their hard work. And I got nothing else.
Thank you so much, sweet girl. All right, and we also have signed up to speak Stacy Ash. You could just state your name for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Stacy Ash, and I've been living in the Huntersville area for 20 years. Love the area, and really, honestly, what have been done here recently with all the parks. I mean, exceptional job, and it makes me so proud to be a part of Huntersville. I have been blessed in my travels that I was able to go ahead and this year in 2023 hike the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine. So I got to see some amazing, amazing places. And everyone was like, hey, what state did you love most? And North Carolina, of course. And I especially love North Carolina. And and living in Huntersville, I mean, the police department, the parks, the greenways, I mean, I just can't speak enough about it. I can also tell you that I am an educator, and I have been working with children and families for 20 plus years. And I have an organization that I founded in 2020 called the Children's Nature Community. And basically what that is that I felt like children needed the opportunity to be outside more. I studied the Reggio Emilia philosophy in Italy. I've been to Germany and observed forest schools. And to me, children need to be outside. So with the Village Nature Community, I started it. It's a very organic group. I don't get any return for it. It's just that I'm passionate about children. I'm passionate about nature. I started the group in 2020. Today, I have over 4,000 families. The group was growing so fast. I have 11 administrators for the page. We orchestrate meeting up every day to support families and children in the area. So the Holbrook Park, my son, he's in grad school right now, and we went to that park and brought to them, so now looking at that park, the changes that have been done are outstanding. But the thought of any trees, like, I just think that I know that there's a natural progression and we do need to go ahead, but mature trees and children, I mean, the whole business park is pretty much gone. And that was a place that we would typically go, we'd ride our bikes, and it's not a place that we go anymore. And so I know that we are concerned about, we need to have the parking, and we've been going around to, the brewery parking and walking on. I just think that we just need to rethink how that we can be intentional about saving some of the trees in the pavilions. Because, I mean, to me, and coming fresh off the trail, and, children need this opportunity so that they can go ahead and be in nature.
Ms. Ash.
My group would not be.
Ms. Ash, your time is up. But thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay. We're on to item number 7. Adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Motion to adopt the agenda?
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? All right, the motion carries unanimously. Item number 8, consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I would like to make a motion that we adopt the consent agenda for tonight's meeting.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. do not have any public hearings this evening. We're on to item 10A, approved budget amendment appropriating NC Office Budget Management Grant. Mr. Williams,
I'll be Bobby and Patty tonight.
Bobby and Patty,
It'll be hard because they're
Mr. Roberts.
much smarter than me, so we'll take a stab at it. So first, I'll explain a little bit about, I know some folks have had questions about the actual grant, so I'll talk a little bit about the grant and then a little bit about cash, and so kind of hit it all. So the grant we received came out of House Bill 259, which was back in 2023. Representative Bradford at the time was able to secure some funds for Huntersville. $3 million was associated with capital and equipment, and then $200,000 was associated with fire department. And typically with grants, there's a deadline, that you have to use those funds. The deadline for those funds, actually, let me step back a little bit. We received the actual funds in January of '24. The deadlines to use those funds is October of '25. So I just set all that up, that there's a deadline to use those funds. And you may have heard back when you got funds, or we secured funds. I think at that time we secured some funds for Cornelius for the Kane Arts Center, and maybe some for Davidson for another purpose. Don't recall those. Don't care as much about those, obviously, as the ones here in Huntersville. But those are what those funds, how those funds came about through House Bill 259. So a little bit further on the grant funds, I think it was the second meeting of February of this year, we used a portion of the $3 million that was for capital and equipment for the roundabout improvements. I think it was $500,000, $500,000 that we used, second meeting February, that went towards those roundabout improvements. That's going to start in the fall, so very soon you'll see plantings, some rock walls, et cetera, Huntersville logo within the northern and southern roundabout. So we used a portion of those funds, so that left $2.5 million left. The $200,000 we've already used for the fire department. We've already used that for bringing over the fire department, et cetera, in-house. And then now I'll jump into, obviously, this budget amendment here, you could use those $2.5 million, that's what we're proposing to use it for. You could say, I don't want to use those for that. We'll use it for some other project between now and October, and you could take that out of general fund balance, if you so choose. But staff has chatted and said, that deadline is approaching, and it seems like a good project to use it for. The Cashin's property, which is through this wall here, Cashin's gas station. We have been working with the Cashin family, Representative Gordon Cashin. I don't know how many times I've talked to him, probably 20 over this period. So we've been working with the family. We haven't forced them to sell the property. We haven't condemned the property. We haven't done any of that. So we've been working with, and if you don't believe me, call him. So we've been working with Gordon this whole time on that property. As you know, through this process with the town hall, one thing, the new town hall behind us that is going up now, one of the things as the TIA came out is something that we have to look at is potentially putting in a turning lane, which goes in front of that store. And that's a decision we still have to come back at some point in time and make a decision on. So part of the process, if we continue to move forward with purchase of Cashin's property, is looking at a turn lane, which will get quite a bit of distance over into that property. So I just want to set that out. Where have we gone so far? Obviously, we've come before the board for a contract. The board approved moving forward with the contract. We've done that. We're doing our due diligence. Obviously, I can't take it any further. We have to have funds to be able to purchase the property. The action before you tonight is to be able to ask the board to consider moving forward with the budget amendment to allow us to move forward with that purchase. We're still doing due diligence. We've done a phase 1, a phase 2 analysis like you would do on any piece of property. We did a phase 1 and a phase 2 actually on the property beside Cashin's when we purchased. Used to be a house on there where the Greenway entrance comes out on 115. Same thing, a phase 1, phase 2 there. I actually did a phase 1, phase 2 on the property right here where Town Hall is going. Anytime you're near a gas station, that's just good business to do that. I can't remember whether we did a phase 1, phase 2. I know we did. I think we actually did a phase 1, phase 2 on the grass strip which is across the street. I know we did some core sample drills there. I'm not sure if it was a phase 2, but definitely a phase 1. Pretty sure it was a phase 2. But, so we have done a phase 2 on Cassions. We've done core samplings. We are doing a few more samples if I'm facing the building on the right side, if I'm standing on 115, looking at the building on the right side closest to the park. A few more little core samplings there, I think 3 or 4 more core drills. I think we got some of that data back today that just said, looks pretty good. But we're trying to hone, we found a little bit of elevated benzene, I think it's called, in a little small area on the right side of the property. So the reason we decided to do a couple more core drillings is to just to hone in on that area and tighten it up so that if we need to do some remediation, we'll be able to do that. So in this dollar amount you see before you, 2.5 million, the purchase price for the property is 2.3. The other $200,000 is for closing costs and any type of mitigation and cleanup that is needed. If there's mitigation and cleanup needed, there's also access to, we don't have it here, but there's access to Superfund, I'm gonna call it Superfund dollars. We worked with Hart and Hickman. Hart and Hickman is doing the soil testing there. So I know I've rambled a lot and tried to give you and the public as much information as possible, but we've been talking about Cassions for some time. We've had Cassions here before this board meeting. Probably talked about it with any turning lane improvements. Any project that you do in the downtown area, we do, or a developer does, is going to affect this intersection. No ifs, unless it's maybe a hot dog stand. But other than that, if it's a building of any magnitude, same thing on the green strip over here in front of DPK and the parking deck, will require TIA. If it's of any significant size, it's going to affect that intersection. So there will be ramifications on that intersection that will most likely require a turning lane on the Cassions property. So to say all that, we've been in discussions with the Cashin family through Gordon Cashin. They're comfortable, with the process that we're moving forward. We've been very open the whole way. They've been great to work with. So what I ask you tonight is consider this budget amendment to move this process forward. And assuming all goes well, we would look to close mid-September. We're working with the family on that date, possibly as early as September 16th. Somewhere September 16th, probably through 18th is my guess right now. But we will continue to work with the family to make that happen. And I'll stop there and open up for any question. Hopefully I hit all the different points.
Any questions? Commissioner Dumas?
Okay, so we're doing all the soil testing. I think that's what I've heard most about is, we want to make sure that the soil is something we can actually build on, right? And it sounds like we're doing all that testing. If we approve today and we move forward and then we continue to do the testing and have those discussions and we find something after we approve today, what then?
As part of our due diligence, we will not close on it. So I will not close on it. If we come back and find out that, let's just say soil testing, we find some bad stuff. And let's say it, $1 million, $500,000, whatever, then we would not close. We would stop that, come back and have more discussion with the board and the property owner and see where we go from there. But we will not close if we find more details that cause us to go above this 2.5 million.
Rivers?
And I'm sorry, you stated that the expected closing date is mid-September? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, ma'am. Last conversation I had with Gordon, we were looking at somewhere between the 16th and the, I want to say 19th.
Okay, so within doing the due diligence, and how long does it take for the due diligence process if you find something? How long does that take to come back before we?
So we already have the Phase 2 findings and the report, so we know what the Phase 2 findings said. That's what sort of, they found some elevated benzene. So from there, let's just say the benzene was in this paper. So our goal was to try to take, now that we had points here, is to try to see how small of area is the benzene in. So the other core drillings that we just got, and I think we got the information today, look good, hones that area into a smaller spot. I know that's simplistic, but that's the best way I can explain it. I'm no soil scientist, but that's what we're doing. And we have that, I just received, I think, an email on that that sounds good. But we will make sure we get the full report. We'll have some comment. We've already had conversations with Hart and Hickman and Gordon. We'll have more conversation with Hart and Hickman and Gordon and hone in on how big of area. And then if Superfund dollars are, we already have lined up if we need Superfund dollars. There's forms you have to fill out. You know, you have to close down tanks. You know, we'll be pulling the tanks out of the ground. All that's as part of this cost is to pull the tanks out, clean up whatever's there, for lack of better terms, kind of wipe out everything that's above ground and seed it back in grass. That's the kind of short version.
Commissioner Dumas?
I've lost my train of thought. It had something to do with the process afterwards. So let's say, we've talked from the dais about doing an RFP that we plan to do. Would it be possible that we sell this parcel to the person that we pick for the RFP, or like, what does that 2.5 million end up looking like, I guess, in the future?
So, assuming we close on the property and clean up the property, we are actually going through a similar process, not a cleanup process, but a similar process across the street. Bobby had submitted me a draft RFP to look at over the weekend. I just started looking at that today with a bunch of, attachments or, data of what we know about the land and all that, from, studies, if we had downtown studies and things like that, you attach it to let folks that are interested to know of all the different things we've got going on associated with that property. So very similar, what would happen is we'd put some type of, and this kind of what we did for 760 Craftworks. So if folks are not familiar, that building was owned by the town. Police used to be housed in it. I'd say the last civic purpose was police was in it from a town standpoint. And then obviously they outgrew that building. And one of the things we looked at was, which was a little bit different for the town, is, hey, how could we, try to create some activity downtown? And so we went through an RFP process, and part of that RFP process, we put some stipulations or some, I'm gonna say, conditions on the property. We just didn't put it out there and say, well, it's for sale, and you do whatever's a use by right or rezone it, et cetera. We wanted to make sure that when we sold it, it was a use and a purpose that the board wanted downtown that kind of generated activity. So that's how we did that process for 760 Craftworks, and of course, they took the building and gutted it for the most part and created what you see there now. And then we created some cross-parking easements, so just to let everyone know that the parking at 760 is public parking also, so he could not go and just put up signs and say, this is only for the brewery. So it is cross-parking easements on that so that we can use that entire parking lot except for the, I think it's 6, 7, 8 parking spaces right behind the building, like right up against the building. Those are for private use, but all the other can be used for public space. So, as we grow downtown, we need to get creative on how we have parking spaces. And that has just been finalized probably in the last, we'll just say in the last month. We had some originally on the original portion of that building, then we created more. So I know I went a little long-winded on that. So the same process with 760 is similar to the same process we do on the grass strip. That will probably come to you first, and then we'd probably move over here to Cashins and do a similar process. But if for whatever reason we don't like that process and we didn't want to just sell it outright with restrictions, there's all sorts of different ways you could do that. And where we get our attorneys involved, that you literally could Not that we want to do this, but you literally could own the property and build a project on it and lease it. But there's many different ways you can do it. That's the process that we have done at least once and may look at doing twice, but a future board would have to make that decision on what process, but it would be an RFP most likely, not just an outright sale. Because we want to make sure we get something that is beneficial to downtown. I know that was long-winded, but that is the process.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bergsman?
Yeah, while we're talking about RFPs, is one of the things that you can restrict in an RFP something like residential, say if you didn't want any residential on a property?
Absolutely. You can restrict it to whatever you want. You own the property. So at the end of the day, when you put out that RFP, if we said, we just want multifamily, you could do that. If we want commercial, no residential, or we want a mixed use, all of the above. So while you own the property, you can put whatever restriction you want on it.
And then the other question I had, you've mentioned a few times talking about the mitigation superfund, possibility of Superfund dollars. Can you explain what that means?
So for cleanup, we'll just use gas stations. For a gas station, if they have some, I'm going to say, contamination of soil, there are Superfund dollars that are out there, through state and or federal government that you can use to help clean up sites. They monitor these sites. They're typically on websites to show where these sites are, where gas stations are, et cetera, or contaminated sites. But there are dollars out there to help with what they call cleanup. And you have access to those. And we've been talking to Hart and Hickman about that. So there are forms that you fill out, when you shut down a gas station, and we've been working with Gordon on that, you have to so-called close the tanks. Obviously, he's drained the tanks, pumps all the gas out of the tanks. To be able to remove the tanks, there's a process, a time period for closing, all those type of things you have to work through. So we've been working with Gordon on that. He's been filling out whatever necessary forms that he needs to do that. And so Superfund dollars or cleanup dollars.
Any other questions? Okay. Are we ready for a motion?
I make the motion that we approve budget amendment appropriating NC Office of Budget Management Grant 11982 in the amount of $2,500,000 to various expense accounts for the purchase, mitigation, and related closing costs for 0.350 acres located at 14703 North Old Statesville Road, Huntersville, North Carolina, 28078.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Just want to thank our town manager, Anthony Roberts, for working so hard on this project and bringing it to hopefully closer to its conclusion. I appreciate that. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 10B, consider adopting a resolution in support of legislation authorizing referendum on additional sales tax for further investment in roadway and public transportation systems. Mr. Roberts.
This is definitely one I want to pass on to Bobby and Patty. So no, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of history on this and information, so I'm probably going to be long-winded because this took a long time to get here. So I'm going to do my best not to go through every detail in the legislation. But the action before you tonight is to consider a resolution of support for the legislation to be able to move forward. So that's what you're considering tonight, is support moving that forward. I'm going to give sort of a highlight of what's in the legislation from a Huntersville standpoint. We can get into the weeds, but I'll try to tackle, like, obviously red line and transportation dollars and things like that. So I'm going to start there and then maybe give you a little bit of how the process could potentially move forward, because I'm sure folks will be interested in that, and then ask any question you would like. I do have an attorney in the back room Larry Sheehan, who's worked with the business community, the legislation, when I say legislation, legislators, in helping craft this legislation. He and a team of other attorneys. So if you get too far in the weeds or too legal on me, I'll probably have to pull him up here to help me out, pull me out of the water and not let me drown. But I'll try to tackle it as best I can. If we get too technical, we'll call him up to help out. In this legislation, there are a couple things that I would say, kind of how it affects Huntersville's and the priorities. In your package, you have a request for board action that is submitted. You have the legislation, and you also have explanation of sort of the key points in the legislation that's also attached as part of it. So hopefully citizens can look at all that information and be able to grasp whatever information they need out of that. But what I would say is, in this document, is the citizens will have the right to vote on the referendum on a sales tax that will determine the road network and our transportation future. Also in this legislation, there's a section in the legislation that is key, that allows transportation funds to come back to the town. In this legislation, we're working with Raleigh. Raleigh the folks in Raleigh have to pass the legislation if it moves forward. And one of the things that came out of Raleigh when we were working on this legislation was there needs to be transportation dollars, needs to be heavy in transportation dollars. We want funds to go towards roads, not just rail, not just bus. So you'll see a section in the legislation that talks about 40% rail, 20 bus, 40 roads. I'm being simplistic. There's also another section in the legislation outside of just the 40% roads funds that would come back to Huntersville. There's a piece in there that also addresses where the towns get a portion of Charlotte's dollars also. So it's more like 50% of the dollars come back to Huntersville. So ultimately, what does that impact? That impact, I will say, on a minimum, I'd say the least is roughly $10 million on an annual basis that will come back for transportation purposes, for road transportation purposes. High side of that on an annual basis, probably $12 million. But there's a formula in the legislation that calculates how that is for all the towns and how you calculate that. So that language is in here. Then I think the other key point in here that anybody that's followed the red line, actually I've been on the MTC I think since 2001. I know I'm not that old, I'm only 30, but it's I've been on MTC a long time, and the red line was talked about way back then and never got close. One of the key factors there is that Norfolk Southern on the railroad right away. As you probably have seen in the news, Charlotte is actually voting tonight on that to move forward that purchase. I don't think they actually closed tonight, but they're actually moving forward that purchase. In that purchase, they would purchase, I'm going to just say, from Gateway downtown to the Mecklenburg County line, and there would be an option for the portion in Iredell County. But they would be purchasing from downtown Gateway all the way out to Mecklenburg County line there in Davison, and then a potential option on the other. In this legislation, so regardless of this legislation, Charlotte's moving forward with the purchase. The city of Charlotte is moving forward with that purchase tonight if they vote on that. So that is moving forward. This legislation is not going to be adopted tonight because there are many towns that have to adopt resolutions, and it has to go to Raleigh. So key point number one is that Charlotte buying the right-of-way is, we've never had that opportunity. So red line was dead in the water from the get-go if you didn't have the right-of-way, and never had that agreement. So that is key number one, regardless of this legislation, is having that allows you to move forward the red line. Other thing in the legislation talks about, and I'll get a little more specific, I think it's section, section, and I won't do too much of this. Section 4.9 sort of gets into, and I'm going to read this, the authority must complete at least 50% of the red line before any other rail project is completed, absent the existence of any event beyond the control of authority that delays completion or makes completion impossible. Once the event that caused the delay no longer exists, the authority must resume work on the red line. So the northern towns, as we're working through this legislation, want to make sure, we don't want to be back in 2001, red line is number one. So first thing is purchase the line, and that's what Charlotte is moving forward with tonight. That was key number one. Number two is how do we continue to impress upon the red line is number one. So we put legislation, or we put language in, and the attorneys helped draft that language to put that in the legislation that helps sort of move that along. And then there are other bullet points in here about with the authority that basically they must solicit input from the northern towns as they continue to work through the process on the red line and details on the red line. And then also the authority, or if the legislation doesn't pass, if Charlotte buys the line tonight, then ultimately Charlotte, the city of Charlotte, will get reimbursed for that either through the current structure, MPC structure, and or through an authority if the legislation moves forward. So there are a lot of factors in this legislation. Also, if it goes through in its current wording, the MTC would basically transfer over all its assets, et cetera, would transfer over to a Metropolitan Public Transportation Authority. So it would become authority with a different voting structure, et cetera. I could go on in details, and I'm sure Larry could too. You don't want to go through changes of definitions and things like that within the legislation. But those are the key points in the legislation. What I would say, if you adopt a resolution tonight, like I say, I think Pineville, only town that has adopted that I'm aware of so far is Cornelius. Charlotte is looking at it tonight, us tonight. And then there are other towns, Davison and Pineville, et cetera. Matthews is not going to adopt a resolution in support. I think you're all aware of that. You've seen it in the news. I've told you they will not support this. If the board moves forward with this resolution, then ultimately what Larry and his team will do after we sort of get all those resolutions, they will go meet with the legislatures. You know, obviously, you know, they're not meeting every day now. There are certain days that they'll be meeting, and their team and the business community will try to move this legislation forward. I don't know. I would not bet $1 tonight that this legislation is going to move forward, you know, right now and be approved, and it's that simple. I wouldn't bet $1 on that yet because time is of the essence. You know, legislation is not going to stay there forever, and there's only and Mayor Christie could tell us all about it because she was in Raleigh, so she could tell you that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the wording that you see in this legislation is going to be the exact A, and D that gets adopted. It can go to Raleigh, and you know it can turn into maybe some pieces of sausage. I don't know. But if it goes to Raleigh and it's adopted, what comes out of that is ultimately Mecklenburg County, after the legislation is adopted, would consider putting a sales tax on a referendum ballot for the citizens to vote on. Probably the earliest that could happen is November of '25. If, like I say, a whole lot of ifs I'm talking about here tonight. If the citizens approve that, what I would say the transportation dollars, the earliest that Huntersville would probably see those is 2026. When is the earliest we could possibly see something working on the red line? Actually, I'll just say a train. I don't know if, probably some of the questions, is it diesel, is it electric, is it et cetera? They haven't determined that yet. I know back in the early 2000s, they kept saying diesel. But as they move through the planning process and figuring this out, you know, they will determine what type of train moves up in the intervals and how fast, all those kind of things, where the stations are. They're doing those planning efforts now. So what I would say is the earliest, and this is the earliest that, hey, something could be moving on that track besides me walking up and down it, is 7 to 10 years at best. That's just my guess. Obviously, that's not worth $1, but you know they have to go through that process. So hopefully I hit all the highlights for you. Tried to kind of hit all over the questions I think that you may ask. I will be quiet and let you ask away questions. Thank you.
Board, any questions on this side? Commissioner Dumas?
I'm chatty tonight. By your own words, you were long-winded, so I just want to point out to one important area, well, it's all important, but one specific area about what's preventing what happened with the last tax increase that didn't really benefit our area, but we paid into it. What's preventing that from happening again? You spoke about a part that's in the contract or in the legislation.
Yeah, I would say the two things that advances the red line is purchasing the red line, purchasing the right of way. That allows it to advance. That's the key. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have any faith. Two, in the legislation has some of the parameters of 50% that I mentioned earlier. So those help it. Now, can I sit here and say it is 100% guaranteed that the red line is going to happen? No, I can't guarantee you that. Like I say, who knows what as if going through this process, could things happen? Yes. So I can't 100% guarantee it, but I can tell you we are closer than ever before, and the key is buying the right of way. It was a showstopper if you did not have that, and that is moving forward regardless, assuming Charlotte moves forward tonight, and they have all intentions that I'm aware of doing that based on the many meetings we've been in. I don't know how long we've been talking about this, but a long time.
So let's say the red line doesn't happen. In the legislation, we still have that part that you've mentioned now a couple times that talks specifically about how we will still get investment in our roads in Huntersville, and a significant amount.
Absolutely.
Which frees up some of our money to be able to do other valuable things for our town, or to catch up with the traffic issues and the road issues that we
Absolutely. Just to give you an idea, and to piggyback on it, just from a paving standpoint a year, I think we do shy of, it's usually a little over $1 million. We may have bumped it up a little bit this year. That does, depending on the state of it, 6 to 8 miles of roads of resurfacing. So just to give you an idea, 6 to 8 miles of resurfacing throughout neighborhoods, we'll just go with $1.5 million. That changes obviously with oil prices, et cetera. So just it kind of gives you an idea of what 10 million annually would do, or 12 million annually, and that most likely will grow based on what has happened previously there. Sometimes it is sort of flat, but for the most part in Huntersville, because it's a popular place, everybody, shops, eats, et cetera, and people move here, that number tends to go up. So that just kind of gives you a magnitude of that number in relation to it. But I'm not going to sit here and guarantee that 100% that, yes, the red line is a done deal, is happening. If they purchase it, that is key.
Any other questions? Commissioner Bergson?
So while the red line, if all of this proceeds as we think it may, is still quite a while out, we would start receiving kind of the revenue that approximate 10 to 12 million before long before that, right?
That is correct.
So that would be if it was on the ballot in November 2025, would that be around 2026, 2027?
We're 2026 is what we're looking at to start receiving some of those funds.
Okay. And then for the portion for roads that we're talking about here, it sounds like that also includes things like resurfacing, maintenance. Does it include that, or only new projects?
Yeah, it has some language in it that we can use it for road associated projects. So it's not new paving, it's not just resurfacing. So there's some stipulations around that. But yes, we can use it for any type of road projects, sidewalks, et cetera.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right. May I have a motion?
Mayor, can I just one thing? I would just ask Larry, anything I said wrong, or you want to correct me? You want me to come to the mic and stand right here? Mayor, I'd say come up here and you correct me if I said something, please. If the mayor will allow me, if I said something wrong.
For all the years I've come to this chamber, I've never actually stood here. This is a little weird. just on behalf of the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, which is who I work with, as their attorney at the McIntosh Law Firm, and you all know the McIntosh Law Firm, we just want to thank Anthony. I cannot tell you how often I was so grateful to have him and his experience in the room with the other 7 managers. We had a lot of different opportunities to talk through all this. There's been a lot of compromise that took place. There's been a lot of discussion among everyone that could possibly weigh in on this. But tonight, it looks like that if our vote count is correct, which I'm actually going to leave here as soon as y'all vote, I'm going to go right to Charlotte. If our vote count's right, we're buying the red line tonight. And for those of you that have been in this community as long as I have, I've been here since I was half a year old in 1984. This community made a promise to itself in 1997 to build the red line. It hasn't happened yet. And every single member of North Mecklenburg has paid taxes on that up to this point. When the northern communities came together to say, you're going to buy the red line and you're going to build it, or you're not going to get anything to the rest of this county, that was a strong position that the managers made. And they were all adamant about that. Because if they hadn't, I don't think this community would have this opportunity to invest in itself, unlike any other community in the country. For those of you that know about Pennies for Progress, York County was the only other county around here regionally that has ever done anything this ambitious, and you can see what that's done for them. So there's nothing that Anthony said that's incorrect. I just wanted to come up here and brag on him. You and I have been friends and known each other since you were at Cornelius, and I started out as a young child lawyer running around working on stuff. So it's been fun to get the opportunity to work on this with you, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to be bragged on in front of your board for everything you've done.
Say yes or no.
But no, I'm just very grateful to him and, of course, to you all for this opportunity. He's completely right. This is far from over. This is the step 5 in step 40 steps of how this will happen. But I know that the businesses of your community couldn't be more grateful for your support and for helping to realize a dream that many of them have had for almost 30 years. So that's it. Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Shaheen before he dashes out the door? Dash back. Commissioner Walsh.
I've lived here for 32 years, and I think we all know that we're not going to be able to pave our way out of the current congestion. You simply can't keep adding lanes to I-77 or any of our other roads. So the red line is going to be a game changer up here. So obviously I'll be supporting it. It's another mass transit opportunity, and obviously we'll continue to look at non-motorized opportunities. And then the $10 million coming each year to Huntersville is going to be great.
I understand that this has been talked for many, many years, and I know that it's coming. I just want to ensure that as the red line proceeds and the process, progresses, I want to make sure that the town of Huntersville itself creates an anti-displacement agreement to ensure that those that are directly affected are protected. I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the exact design, but I know that besides the double tracks, which could cause displacement, I know there are other factors. So I would like to encourage the town of Huntersville to create an anti-displacement agreement, just like the city of Charlotte has created one. Theirs was created back in June of 2023. So I just want to be mindful of that.
Thank you. Commissioner Quarles.
Yeah, I want to say that I'm excited about this. Very excited about the economic impact it's going to do to our town. As we look at revitalizing our downtown, this is going to bring many people to the great city of Huntersville. And then also the environmental reasons, getting vehicles off the road. I travel up and down 77, and I take advantage of the express lane. But to see how the congestion and the bottleneck is. So again, this right here is going to make a huge difference, and I'm looking forward and excited to make this vote.
Okay, Commissioner Bergsman.
I just have a comment, not a question. But in earlier discussions, we were understandably cautious, wary of false promises similar to what occurred in the past 25 years. I know when I moved here back in 2011, that was, a topic of discussion then, and it's been going on ever since, of not having a red line and not having it supported by Charlotte. I really want to commend Anthony and the other North Meck town managers for their diligent work in securing the protections in this legislation that our community deserves. You've shown us what effective leadership looks like. This legislation addresses one of our community's top concerns, our roads, and does so in a way that can help alleviate the burden on our property tax base while also accelerating much-needed improvements that benefit everyone. It also helps guarantee delivery of the Red Line project with firm guidelines and protections in place, a marked contrast to the last time. And most importantly, I absolutely support this resolution because it puts the power in the hands of our citizens to voice their opinion through a ballot referendum, ensuring their voices are heard on issues that matter most to them. And I just want to reinforce that last point that, when we're having this discussion and voting on a resolution, we're not voting tonight on a sales tax increase. We're voting to put that decision in the hands of the people. And I hope people will get out and vote whenever it's on the ballot, if it makes it there.
Okay. Commissioner Hunt?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo my support for this as well. We've had a number of emails in support of this. People are hoping that we take this step today. It is important for us to try to ease the traffic congestion, which we all know is problematic. It helps to protect the environment by getting cars off the road, creates a lot of economic opportunity here in Huntersville, and then it also helps to improve transportation opportunities for individuals who don't have cars. So to me, it sounds like a really important step here that we need to take.
Right. And thank you, Mr. Shaheen. We'll let you dash off on Okay, before we make our motion for this, I also want to add one thing, which is an important part of the legislation, something near and dear to my heart, which is the creation of a transportation authority, which brings a little more power and say for the small towns surrounding Charlotte as we consider transportation projects. It will give us a little bit louder voice. It won't give as much of a voice as I would really wish we had, but it will help us get closer to having a bigger voice on transportation projects than not being overrun by the city of Charlotte, and so I appreciate that has been added to the legislation. So now, without further discussion, I think we're ready for our motion.
Right before I make my motion, I'm just going to read a couple of the notes that we got from emails this week, because this was one, as Commissioner Hunt said, that we received a lot of emails on. And I promise you I read my emails, but you're not hearing from me this week again. I'm sorry. So I heard that it would be an abdication of duty, and because this opportunity won't come up again. And we heard it from our own manager, time is of the essence, the legislation won't be there forever. And then that this would help lower inequities by improving access to jobs, grocery stores, medical appointments, and more, help address the climate crisis by removing cars from the road, reduce traffic fatalities and serious injuries by building streets that are safe for all, provide equitable and affordable transportation choices so more people can walk, bike, and ride public transit to their daily destinations, reduce time spent sitting in traffic by providing more efficient ways of getting around, and improve our health by reducing air pollution. And I thought that email did a great job of summing it all up. So with that, I would like to make a motion to adopt the resolution in support of legislation authorizing referendum on additional sales tax for further investment in roadway and public transportation systems.
And may I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Now, item 11, closing comments. We'll start with you, Commissioner Rivers. Commissioner Walsh. Commissioner Dumas. Commissioner Hunt. Commissioner Quarles. Commissioner Bergsman. Okay. And item number 12, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We are adjourned.